With the defeat of the everlasting dragons, the world entered a new era, unlike anything that had existed before. The endless gray of the Age of Ancients gave way to an age defined by change, growth, and ambition. For the first time in history, civilizations began to emerge. Kingdoms rose from the ruins of the old world, and the beings who had claimed the Lord's souls became the rulers of a reality they had helped create. Thus began the Age of Fire, an era that many would later remember as the greatest age the world had ever known. At the center of this new world stood Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. Having led the war against the dragons and secured victory for the lords, Gwyn became the dominant power of the age that followed. Under his rule, the city of Anor Londo was constructed high above the clouds, bathed in sunlight, and visible for miles across the land below. To later generations, Anor Londo would become synonymous with the glory of the gods themselves. A city whose towering cathedrals and magnificent halls symbolized the prosperity and confidence of the Age of Fire. The society that formed around Gwyn established the first great hierarchy of the New World. The gods ruled from Anor Londo, while powerful knights, loyal retainers, and trusted allies governed beneath them. The Age of Dragons had been one of permanence and stagnation, but the Age of the Gods was built upon order, purpose, and progress. For the first time, history truly began to move forward. Among Gwyn's greatest warriors were the Silver Knights, veterans of the ancient war against the dragons who became legendary throughout the world. Clad in silver armor and wielding weapons forged for battle against creatures far larger than themselves, they served as both protectors of Anor Londo and symbols of Gwyn's authority. Long after the glory of the gods had faded, tales of the Silver Knights would continue to survive, preserving the memory of a world that many would come to view as a lost paradise. One of Gwyn's most significant decisions during this period was the reward he granted to Seath the Scaleless for his role in the defeat of the dragons. Despite his betrayal of his own kind, Seath was welcomed among the gods and granted the title of Duke. He was given lands, influence, and the freedom to pursue his studies without limitation. In many ways, Seath became the first great scholar of the Age of Fire, dedicating himself to understanding the secrets of souls, crystals, and sorcery. Yet Seath's pursuit of knowledge was driven by something deeper than curiosity. Unlike the other dragons of the ancient world, Seath had been born without the stone scales that granted immortality to his kin. Even after the fall of the dragons and the beginning of a new age, this fact continued to haunt him. While the gods celebrated their victory, Seath devoted himself to a single obsession: overcoming mortality and achieving the immortality that had been denied to him since birth. His research would eventually lead to discoveries that shaped the future of sorcery, but it would also slowly drive him toward madness. Far from Anor Londo, the Witch of Izalith and her daughters established their own domain. There, they refined their mastery over flame and developed what would eventually become known as pyromancy. Unlike sorcery, which relied upon study and intellect, pyromancy drew directly upon fire itself, allowing its practitioners to shape flames through instinct and willpower. During this period, the Witch of Izalith was celebrated not as the creator of demons, but as one of the architects of the New World and one of the greatest powers of the Age of Fire. Meanwhile, Gravelord Nito withdrew into the depths beneath the earth, where he became closely associated with death and the inevitable fate awaiting all living things. If Gwyn represented light and order, Nito represented the opposite side of existence that had emerged with the coming of the flame. Death, decay, and disease had become part of the natural order, and Nito stood as their guardian and embodiment. Through him, the world learned that all things born into the Age of Fire would eventually come to an end. Yet perhaps the most important event of this era occurred far from the shining cities of the gods and the domains of the lords. While history celebrated Gwyn, Izalith, and Nito, the fourth lord remained largely forgotten. The furtive pygmy had claimed the Dark Soul, a power that at first seemed insignificant compared to the souls of light, death, and fire. Rather than building kingdoms or commanding armies, the pygmy chose a different path. The Dark Soul was divided into countless fragments, and from those fragments came humanity itself. This revelation lies at the heart of Dark Soul's lore. Humanity was not created by the gods, nor was mankind a lesser version of the divine beings ruling from Anor Londo. Every human carried within them a fragment of the Dark Soul, discovered by the furtive pygmy beneath the first flame. Though individually small and seemingly insignificant, these fragments represented a power unlike any other in existence. Whether Gwyn understood the implications of this discovery remains uncertain. It is possible that he viewed humanity as simply another people living beneath the protection of the gods. It is equally possible that even at this early stage, he recognized the potential hidden within the Dark Soul and understood what humanity might one day become. Dark Souls never gives us a definitive answer. For a time, however, none of these concerns appeared to matter. The world prospered beneath the light of the first flame. The gods ruled from Anor Londo. The kingdoms of man slowly expanded across the land, and civilization flourished in ways that had once seemed impossible during the Age of Ancients. To those living during this period, it may have appeared that the Age of Fire would continue forever. But fire, by its very nature, cannot burn endlessly. Every flame eventually consumes its fuel, and no matter how brightly it burns, the day inevitably comes when it begins to fade. Somewhere, deep within the kiln of the first flame, the source of Gwyn's age slowly began to weaken. The signs were subtle at first, and perhaps invisible to all but the gods themselves, but the truth could no longer be ignored. For the first time since the fall of the dragons, the rulers of the world began to realize that their age, too, might one day come to an end. And for Gwyn, that possibility was unacceptable.